Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good health. Welcome to the films I watched this week. Nothing exciting to tell you weather-wise. It's been quite blowy, quite breezy. But nothing special. All right, we started off with a film called Gold. It's a film called Gold from 1974. Roger Moore. All about goals and gold mines and corruption and the things that people will do to get gold. It was described as a thriller. Apart from a few bits here and there and a little bit towards the end, it was very much lacking in the thrills department. But it was alright to watch for Roger Moore. I give it I've got it written down a 5 or a 6. It's no less than a 5, it's no higher than a 6. So that's called Gold. Gold! Then, had a little bit of a film night with my friend, who I've mentioned before, Sophia. I showed her a couple more monster films. I showed her Godzilla from 1998, which her opinion of this film is Matthew Broderick, isn't he sweet? But she didn't like it or dislike it. It's just a very much a meh film for her. For me, if I look at it as a random monster film, then I can get mild enjoyment from the monster scenes, but then it's not just a random monster film, it's a Godzilla film, and this ain't Godzilla. So I give it a 4 out of 10. 98 is too long as well. It's far too long. CGI hasn't aged too well, hasn't aged too badly, but yeah, I did read somewhere that the Godzilla people actually just call it Zilla. And then I showed her a much better film. I showed her Kong Skull Island, which she absolutely loved. She gave it a 9 out of a 10. She loved Kong. She loved Kong more in this than she's loved Kong in Kong vs. Godzilla. Or is it Godzilla vs. Kong? Either way, she loved Kong. I give it an 8 out of 10. Love the soundtrack. And I actually like John C. Reilly. And it is fun. Brie Larson's alright. Tom Hiddleston's alright. You get weird creatures. And yeah, I enjoyed it. She gave it a 9. I gave it an 8. So that's them two, vastly different. So there's them. Then a film that Bob watched a couple months back called My Son from 2021. Stars James McAvoy, who is slowly, and I mean slowly, growing on me. Not a huge fan of him really, but as I say, he's growing on me. He works in the oil fields of like Saudi Arabia and Arab Emirates. He works over there, and his son goes missing, so he comes home to deal with all that. And I read that he had no script. He was improvising everything. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I give it a 7. I thought it was a pretty decent film, and he was pretty decent in it. So give that one a 7. My Son, 2021, a first watch. Then another first watch from 1969. It sounded good, but it kind of wasn't. Called Castle Keep. And the synopsis that I read said a group of soldiers, ragtag group of soldiers, defend a castle from the Nazis. When you look online, it says a count shelters a group of soldiers hoping they will defend his castle. And if you take out the action, the war stuff, turn up the heat a little bit, and you could have an erotic film in a castle with Burt Lancaster, Peter Falk, and I give it a 5 because the war stuff was cool and not cool. The war stuff was decent. Everything else, not so much. So give that a 5. 1969, Castle Keep. Then, finally watched all of this. Gone with the Wind. I watched it over 2 nights. It's close to 4 hours long. I watched roughly half of it a couple of years back in the summer. Didn't like it, didn't care for it, so switched it off. But I watched it all. Best thing I can say is over a 4-hour period over 2 nights. It didn't bore me. I found it interesting. I liked the war and the fighting stuff. That was well done. But I'm not sure I'd watch it again anytime soon. But I give it an 8 out of 10. I still think The Wizard of Oz should have won more Oscars than it did. That you can see why it won the Oscars, all the Oscars that it won. But I preferred The Wizard of Oz. Same director, but yeah, anyway. Then a film from 2021, another first time watch, called Cosmic Sin. I knew it would be bad when I saw Bruce Willis on the poster. Soldiers attack hostile aliens. Bruce Willis now, we all know about Bruce Willis, don't we now? We all know about him. And how many people have picked on him, saying, oh, he's done this, he's done that, he's just getting it for the money. Well, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I haven't seen too much of his straight-to-video stuff over the last 10 years. But he doesn't speak much, and you can tell, as I say, hindsight is wonderful. You can tell there's something not quite right with him. Kudos for him, keep going, keep working, but you could take him out of the film and it would make no difference whatsoever. I give it a 3. Then another film that is even worse than that one, called The Unwelcomed, or The Arrival, from 1991. A comet falls to Earth and makes this old guy, 70-year-old, starts getting younger and younger and younger, but he changes. He needs something to feed. There's an alien inside of him. I give it a 2. It was shit. Then a film that my letterbox said I've seen before. I don't remember anything of it. Summer Rental. John Candy. Lovable John Candy takes his family on holiday with all of the silliness and the daftness. You got Richard Crenna as a bit of a comedy guy. It was fun. I give it a 6. It was harmless fun. It's best I can say. Harmless fun. This is not fun. The Girl in the Spider's Web. A reboot, remake, sequel to David Fincher's Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. This computer hacker. There's this group called the Spiders, all high-tech stuff, and a decently made film, but I give it a 6. 2018. Just not great. Now this film, Wormwood Apocalypse, it's a zombie film. Don't know anyone in it, but it's a zombie film. These zombies spit gas, and they can use this gas to do something with, and there's this crazy woman that you see in the thumbnail, and if you give them blood, then it calms them down. It's shit. It's 100 times worse than The Girl in the Spider's Web, but it's more fun than The Girl in the Spider's Web. But it still only gets a 4, because you sit there thinking, this is shit, but you keep watching it. Wormwood Apocalypse. Then a film from 1974, The Longest Yard. Burt Reynolds goes to prison and coaches the prison American football team, and you know how that kind of film goes. You've seen it before. You know the whole story there. Corruption, extortion, blackmail, racketeering, murder. It all happens on the waterfront. 1954. Marlon Brando, Lee J. Cobb, black and white, crime. An excellent film. Not one of my favourites, but I recognise a very good film. I give it an 8 out of 10. It is solid. I like Marlon Brando's performance. He won Best Actor. I think he did. But I like his performance. Just a very well done film. Could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. Love that quote. Love that scene in the car. Superb. On the waterfront. I would say a film to be watched once in your life. If you don't watch it anymore, if you just recognise that's a good film, but I've seen it, I can put it away now. But that's everything that I've watched this week, and I'll be back again, do it all over again. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.